Well, good morning and welcome to Stormont. In fact, if you listen quite closely, you could nearly hear Sonny and Cher playing, because this is Groundhog Day. It is like the pub with no beer. It's a Parliament buildings with no government. To explain this, and it could take hours to explain it to anybody, but we'll quite quickly try to go through it. Behind me is government buildings. The Northern Ireland Assembly sits there. Down the road is the castle, and the executive sit there. The executive are chosen from the Assembly above, and the ministers in the executive, it's like a cabinet if you like, are picked by how many departments they get, by how big their parties were getting in to the Assembly behind us. Committees examine legislation that goes forward before it goes forward to the executive, and then becomes law and moved into Northern Ireland. Under the Good Friday Agreement, this system was set up that certain locks were put in place. The first of those, of course, was John Major, and his Irish counterpart at that time had to sign an agreement saying that both parties had no financial, selfish or strategic interest in Northern Ireland. The Brexit has made that not true. The Irish Republic, of course, is part of the EU. They're trying to protect the single market, and the protocol was put into place. The DUP then collapsed the government here back in February. Paul Givan, the First Minister, withdrawing his support for the government and effectively leaving a zombie government in place. So legislation was put through the House of Commons in London, because this isn't uncommon in Northern Ireland. In 2017, the Assembly elections then, Sinn Féin, the largest nationalist party, stayed out of this place behind us for 1,044 days. Then Julian Smith, the Secretary of State, put forward this legislation. It came through the House to stop that happening. So when we have an election, the ministers are held in place for 24 weeks from the first time they try to have to form a government. That runs out tomorrow. Well, at midnight tonight, actually. And now Chris Heaton-Harris must decide if he's going to call an election. But what happens if he does that? Well, the protocol is still in place. Unionists here, not one unionist side, supports the protocol, and that undermines the Good Friday Agreement. Tony Blair, the architect of the Good Friday Agreement, or one of the main ones, has said himself that the protocol and the Good Friday Agreement cannot exist in the same space, because Article 6, the acts of the Union, are changed by the protocol. The money side, the commercial side of Northern Ireland, has been annexed by the EU. And the DUP or any unionist will not sit in government where that is taking place. So if an election is held this side of Christmas, which is looking very likely, Sinn Féin will turn it into a border poll, the DUP will challenge that, and we will end up with two massive opposites coming back into power. The middle ground will be squeezed, and the Good Friday Agreement will definitely be done at that stage.